This is
Sure.
Danny, Easy D Dorman, 5 easy questions. And today I'm honored to this guest or for this guest to come and speak with me because he is so busy, especially in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I know him as a friend. Other people know him as a founder of a certain music group that he'll get into. He is a director, producer, the whole shooting match. Now, this goes into why I'm honored because he's taking the time to speak to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Tobin Costen.
How you doing, Danny? What's going on?
Nothing, man. Just, living day by day. And,
Absolutely.
going to be a grandparent. So,
Oh,
ooh.
congratulations! Yeah, man, that is awesome. I'm hoping I'm a ways away from that, but yeah, that's wonderful, man. I'm so
Well,
happy
you know
to.
what? I was, well, it's one of those, it's kind of like when my first son was born, who's actually going to be the father. I didn't know how to be because I was going to be a new parent, but the moment he was born and I found a picture of me holding him in the hospital, just
Yes,
happenstance, that day changed my life. So now
absolutely.
with my grandson, I've warned both my kids.
Mm.
I'm gonna hop them up on candy and loud toys, and I'm gonna make
And
up
you
for
should.
all the madness you put me through. So
Absolutely. Hop them up and then say, "Here you go, son."
here you go. I mean, I feel sorry for my daughter-in-law because
Oh,
she's collateral damage on that, but
it happens. That's
it
all good.
happens. All right, man. So let's jump into my first question. I alluded to it with a little Bay Area consortium that you help create. And I'll use that term loosely. I hope you go deeper into it. But why don't you go ahead and tell the audience what I'm referring to?
Well, you're probably referring to No Limit Records and my background there, and anyone who has seen the No Limit Chronicles right now, it's really popular show on BET, 5-part docu series about No Limit Records and Master P. And part of one of the episodes, and maybe multiple episodes, it's kind of my background meeting Master P, us becoming a working relationship or partners, if you will, as his business manager and executive vice president for No Limit Records, as well as his personal manager, and building and fostering the relationship that we did have with distributors, and making sure that we were growing the business and marketing to not only on the West Coast but down south and in the Midwest, and then obviously nationally. So that's really what the buzz is. I've got my phone ringing off the hook, texting me, people wanting to talk to me, and there's so much to talk about. So anyone who's seen the No Limit Chronicles, it's real hard to put all this information in 5 segments, right? So we try to do our best to tell the story and good information. Some of it's stuff's glossed over. Some of the stuff doesn't go into as much detail, but it tells a story. People are excited about it. People want to know more about it. So it's definitely very interesting and it's very fun.
Hey, let me tell you. Now, I'll be fair. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to
Uh,
watch it probably shortly after this interview. But I am excited because you and I have spoken about it in the past and even before the actual documentary. When I first
yeah,
met you, we talked
yes.
about your relationship with everyone in the company. I'm not going to go into mudslinging or anything. If you want to, be my guest.
No,
But
no. I mean,
I'm not.
so many years have passed, so no, not at all.
Well, yeah, time heals all wounds. And
It
it's
does.
more, and that's why I'm glad we're speaking upon it. It's more of the legacy you helped lay than any animus that occurred, because that honestly, you could take music out as the adjective. It's the business. And in any business, you're going to have not any business, but you're going to have some businesses where everyone breaks apart for various reasons. So, but it's the legacy. At the end of the day, no one can take that away from you. And I'm glad you're letting people know how the business is. And I'm going to try and not go down the rabbit hole, but I always try to emphasize to the artists that ask for assistance, ask for help. I tell them, hey, read Mac Mall's book. Now watch your documentary,
Yes.
because it is that is the business. It doesn't matter if it's 1980 or 2020.
Yes.
The only thing that's changed is how you get the music out. But the
Yes. How you
game,
get the music out and who the players of the games are and all that stuff. But it's just at the end of the day, it's about generating revenue. Now it's more downloads than anything. But whether you're doing concerts or you're doing shows or you're back in the day you're selling 45s or you're selling CDs and cassettes. It's about how are you going to generate revenue and how do you generate revenue for the business itself, being the record label or record company, the distribution company. How do you generate revenue for the artist? So trying to figure out, everyone's trying to fight over a dollar. And I think what happens is sometimes people get in this situation or get in this mindset that they're so afraid that they don't have control over something. And money, I always say this, my father used to tell this to me all the time, money is a lot like water. If you close your hands up too much, it'll seep right through your fingers. If you have it too flat, it'll seep right through the fingers. But you just need to hold it just enough where you know where it's coming from and where it's going, and you can use it however to wash your face or drink or whatever, and just not too much where you just lose it and it just goes out the window. And I think what happens is people want to control things so much. Sometimes they think if someone has a different idea or different strategy around doing things, that's a problem. And I think that's when you're dealing with folks who own record labels, or you're dealing with folks who are artists, they want to control things instead of kind of, once things get big, understanding, the transition is not like a speedboat. You don't turn on a dime. Sometimes you have to kind of guide where you want to go, and then make sure you go full speed ahead when you're moving in the right direction. And sometimes that doesn't happen. So I will just tell you, artists should understand their contracts. If they're doing something with distributors or record labels, they should understand what that looks like. Understand your value and what that value is to you and what you're willing to do. Are you willing to sacrifice yourself in order for the big picture? It all just depends on what's important to you at that particular moment in that particular time.
oh, absolutely. And that is going to parlay into question number two. Being the entrepreneur that you are, um, there is a beverage that you are um, a co-creator or co-sponsor. Yeah, you have your name on it, and you have money going in your pocket. So, yeah,
Yes.
whatever you want
And
to call
coming
yourself.
out of it too.
So, why don't you talk about um, what it is you created,
Okay.
and how that whole thing manifests?
Well, I will tell you, I created a beverage or a concept for a beverage called Psycho Cider. It's a hard cider beverage based on apple and other fruit. And I am doing other fruit based on flavor. So what how this came to fruition, I had an idea. I was out with some friends of mine, and we were at this Japanese restaurant in Oakland, and folks were ordering sake, and some folks like sake and some folks don't. And my thought process was, what if I made, because it's the cool thing to do the sake bombs and to drink the sake hot and cold. I said, what if I actually developed a sake which was tasty and had a little bit of a fruit flavor to it, and people would enjoy it.
Mhm.
Well, long story boring. It's really difficult to get a sake license because it's a rice wine, but also it's a brewed product, and you have to have a brewer's license and a wine license. And there's not very many organizations in this country that have that. So I was having some trouble finding someone to make it. I built a relationship with a company out in Coastal California called Gakekon, or a 100-year-old company, and I came up with a formula for some different flavored sakes. They couldn't, I was looking for more of a carbonation, more of something that would, tickle the nose and tickle the throat, if you will. And they were unable to do the carbonation sake. So I happened to meet a gentleman who was in the cider business, and he said he was trying to do sake as well. And at the time, he was kind of new at it, and he was trying to work through the process. And then he found out what I already knew: the difficulty of getting a sake license in order to be a manufacturer or even a distributor of sake is very difficult. So he had said to me, "Hey, I make cider all day long. What if we took your flavors or formulas, and instead of use sake as a base, we use hard cider as a base?" And I started kind of tasting some different ciders and figuring things out. Well, he had some capacity issues, so we couldn't the volumes that I was trying to do, we couldn't handle. So I got lucky and met a gentleman, two gentlemen, Wesley and Johan from Hidden Star Orchards over in San Leandro. They also have a beautiful farm area in Camino, California. So if you ever get a chance to go to Camino, California, and visit Hidden Star, you would love the things that they do. And we talked about cider for hours and what my vision was. And at that point, I had tasted so many different ciders, sweet and dry, and kind of that mid range. And I found out that what I was looking for was something dry and smooth, something low sugar content, but was very flavorful. And with flavors and ideas that I had, I was like a mad scientist that no one else does. So after we had, over the point of about 2 or 3 weeks, we signed a contract and we said, "Hey, you can make your Psycho cider right here at Hidden Star, right in San Leandro, California." So the first idea I had based on the sake was a raspberry dragon fruit. Nobody makes a raspberry dragon fruit cider. We are the only one. And sometimes people say, "Hey, man, I never heard of that." I say, "I know, because I made it up." And the reason why I came up with it, I was trying to do a flavor that was completely different than no one else does, because the Angry Orchards of the world, who has 56% of the beverage marketplace with hard cider, they're doing the standard apple, and they may do a little something different, but they've got the standard apple down, and you're not going to compete with someone doing the same type of flavor and same type of fruit. So I did, okay, I'm going to do this raspberry dragon fruit. No one does it. I put together a kiwi Herman based on kiwi and lime. No one's ever doing that. Is not doing that yet. Then I came up with the idea of doing a lemon drop, because somebody was telling me they were really into lemon drops, and they wanted. And I said, well, okay, what if I did a lemon drop cider? And I start researching what are some of the flavors that are in lemon drop cider, and then I made the lemon drop cider called Illuminati. So me being a fan of football, I wanted to do something with cherry. So I did a cherry ice number 80, an ode to the great Jerry Rice. So I did, yeah, represent the Bay Area, baby. So it's more of a cherry and a lemon. So it's kind of like a cherry lemonade, but it's a very dry, smooth. And all of these ciders were important to me, because if you drink something like an Angry Orchard, you're going to get 22, 26 grams of sugar. So folks who are diabetic, there's no way they could touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
But with my cider, if you use the ingredients that I use, less sugar, we're talking 3, 4 grams of sugar in a pint. So, if you are someone who has an issue where you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, you could go with one and say, okay, I'm okay, because the sugar is very low. It's great because it's naturally gluten free. The process that Hidden Star uses is it's very natural. Everything we use is natural. Um, it's really an organic process. So the great thing about being in the Bay Area compared to my competition in the Bay Area what's crazy, a lot of companies say they're California crafted, but they get juice from Washington and Oregon. So I'm always like, well, how can you be California crafted when you get juice that comes, and honestly, inexpensive juice that comes, because my price point's a little bit higher than the competition. But the foothills of California, that's where the apples come. The apples are pressed by Hidden Star. The juice that's made, we ferment that, and then we actually add our fruit, and then bam, you've got Psycho Cider. So it's an exciting project. We were off to a wonderful start with so many different restaurants and bars all over Northern California. We were selling kegs because we were all about focused on kegs, and we wanted to hit all the party spots and restaurants and bars we could in California. But when COVID hit, it was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do now? Because, less restaurants, less bars are open. So you run into that specific situation where you're like, oh, what am I going to do? We got to do something. And then, one of the folks that I work with, his name is David Grisham. He a great friend of mine, and he's working with me on this project. He just said, "Hey, we got to figure out another way to generate revenue for the business." And it was like, "Okay, we're going canning. We're going to go ahead and buy the equipment to bring cans in to put Psycho cider in cans. We're going to focus on Kiwi Herman and our Mother of Dragons, the Raspberry Dragon Fruit, and we're going to get to the restaurants and bars who are doing, take home service or delivery service, as well as the retail operations, the grocery stores throughout the country. So we're focused on California first. Anyone who knows anything about the beverage business, if you're doing alcohol, each state you got to have a specific license, and they all have different rules depends on the state. So we're focused on California now, and then moving over to Oregon and Washington and Nevada and Utah and Arizona, and then we will move back east from there.
Man, wow. And as I'm listening to you, oh man, I'm fascinated in this. I'm going to propose to you after this that we do another, not necessarily called Five Easy Questions, but something that basically repeat what it is that you spoke upon, because there are so many um, avenues that
Mhm.
you can demonstrate to those who want to get in the business, those
Yes.
who are trying to find the new normal,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, especially in the food and beverage industry, and just how you started. And what's fascinating to me, when we first spoke about No Limit, I had mentioned the take the adjective out, music, and
Yes.
just focus on the business. You are
Yes.
proving that you could take music out and put another adjective in there and be as successful. Um,
I agree with you on that, Danny. I think what I've done or what I've tried to do is take all of the concepts of marketing records, and now I'm marketing a beverage. The same concept of going to the distributor and having multiple products where we have multiple flavors. So right now we have 10 different flavors of hard cider. They're all dry, they're all smooth, and that's really the focus. So when somebody says, "Hey, I like a particular flavor," oh, I like orange. Okay, I got a citrus mistress for you, right? So if someone is saying, "Hey, I like blueberry," well, you know what? I have a blueberry beret that's really delicious. That's got blueberry and lemon in it. So I'm able to adapt, and I think what entrepreneurs need to do is kind of that old saying, like Too Short would say, "Get in where you fit in." Figure out how you can solve a problem, and if you can solve a problem, then you can focus on going from there. And that's really how most businesses are founded. At No Limit Records, it was really, how do we tell a story that people want to hear, and make sure that people are heard. And if we tell stories that people want to hear and that they feel heard, we're going to sell records. as we put together compilations, it's how do we double our fan base quickly? Well, Danny Dorman, he's an incredible artist from a specific hood. Okay, let's get him on board. And then next, you know what? Everybody is getting all of these different fans all the way across the country. So we did it in the West Coast with the West Coast Bad Boys. Then we were focused was doing it with the Down South Hustlers, and then we hit them with another West Coast Bad Boys too. So that's really the focus. And I want most entrepreneurs they kind of struggle. Like I'm a professor at Holy Names University, and I'm always telling my
Jeez.
students if you do something, if you focus on the right thing about solving a problem, and you always are going to will or you're always willing to outwork the next person, you're going to win. Now you may not get to the highest level you want to get to, but you're not going to fail if you outwork the next person and you figure out how to solve a problem.
Man, I mean, okay, so professor, music mogul, beverage mogul. You realize you're about two hats short of being a Jamaican. You do realize.
I know, right? That like
I,
I do the
hey,
cooking, the
and,
cleaning,
hey, and that's positive.
consultant.
No, 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 no. I'm talking about the people out there who why you got to throw it like. But anyway,
Oh, it's not necessary. It just shows that those folks are the hardest working people out there, man. There's so many different people that are willing to do whatever it takes to solve a problem, overcome the challenge. I've always been a guy, and I used to say this to Master P all the time. I told him I would do anything it takes to be successful as long as we're not going to get thrown in jail for it or we're going to get fired, or we're going to get fired from a deal that we got. As long as we're not going to lose a deal, as long as we're not going to jail, I'm willing to do anything that's necessary for us to be successful. And I think that's really the foundation of kind of taking things to the next levels, having that mindset of doing whatever it takes. But we don't want to get thrown in jail for it. As long as we're not getting thrown in jail for it or lose a deal for it, let's just go ahead and try to push the envelope.
exactly. And you know, being a black man, you're already got one foot in the cell without even doing anything. So yeah, I understand that completely. And
Yes.
before I get to question three, what you demonstrated and um, the hustle, that is something that is common, I believe, to all the artists in the Bay. That they're going out there, they're putting in the grind, they
Mm-hmm.
are, and they're telling stories, and they're
Yeah.
not necessarily telling stories about her. Yeah, I'm better than you, and dot dot.
Yeah.
They're telling
Yeah.
stories, and you are a piece of that foundation to help build those stories. So, and I'm
I do
saying
feel
all
that.
that.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I'm saying all that so we can negotiate a hard cider for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to bring you some
Yeah.
personally.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I want my own, man. But I am going to introduce you to my son. We talked about that, and he's
Yes.
excited. And especially if um, you're um, adaptable to create a house beverage. He's already got that with rum.
Hmm.
He is doing that with a tequila, and with you rounding it out, Uber is going to make
Yeah,
all
we
kinds
could
of money.
definitely do something. We can definitely talk about a specific flavor or something that he enjoys and do some testing of what
Oh,
that would taste like for him, and then kind of go from there.
exactly, exactly. So now, question three. Now this
Yeah.
goes into the director producer hat. Um,
Yes.
you have a movie that
Hmm.
was recently released.
Correct.
That I also haven't seen, but you only released it yesterday. So, uh,
That's true.
and you had a game.
I released it about a little over a year ago, but I have released it for free, so people can watch it for a certain amount of time. So yes,
Okay,
I'll
well,
be.
wait a minute now, partner, because I was supposed to be in that movie, and me and
I
Ness.
am. Hey, you know what? I apologize that you guys did not make it in the movie, but I will work on getting you in the next one. There's a couple of movies that scripts. One of the scripts is already done that was written by a friend of mine and a former college classmate named Edward Hancock. and he wrote a script called Straight Outta Burbank. It's about 30 something, 40 something, one hit wonder rappers who think they've got a second shot at the fame. And one of them is a principal, assistant principal at a school. One's a stay-at-home dad, and another one is an insurance guy. So it is really funny, and they have to go meet up with a former friend of theirs who's in the pen, so they could figure out what they need to do to get their swag back to go on tour. So Straight Out of Burbank is one. The other one is called The Happy Ending. It's about two gentlemen who are on house arrest because they opened up a shady, seedy massage parlor, and
Oh, man.
one of them,
Okay.
one of them decides to throw a basic house party the
Oh,
day before their probation officer is coming to cut off their ankle monitors. So one guy is trying to party it up, the other one's trying to clean the place up so they can get out. If not, they get caught, they're going to go to jail for a very long time. So those are the two movies we're working on. I think the happy ending movie will be the next one. I will definitely find a spot for you and my man Nasty Nest to get up in there for sure.
hey, well, you know what? And especially yeah, with the title, you saw me smile. Then you
Yes,
told me what the premise was.
yes.
And for those of you out there who don't know why I'm laughing, Google. You'll figure it out. And I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole. Let's
Yeah.
talk about um, the movie that you released. And
Yeah.
again, not just the movie itself, synopsis of that, but again, now this is another two-part question.
Okay.
What motivated you to do it, and what were the obstacles you ran into in doing it?
Okay. So I always wanted to make movies since I was young. So when I was at No Limit Records, the reason I'm About It became a movie. It's because we were selling a lot of records at the time, and a friend of mine, David Grisham, who works with me on my current project with Psycho Cider, he went to film school and he had ideas, and he said, "Hey, you guys are selling so many records right now. What if you just made movies?" And I was like, "Man, that's a great concept." So I went to Master P, and said, "Look, I think if we put a movie together and put a soundtrack together, we could put a movie and a soundtrack together, not even release it, and people would go buy the movie and buy the soundtrack." So that's where the concept came. So what happened was we went to Priority and said, "Hey, we're going to do this movie." They were all in because Friday was obviously a very big movie, and they were involved in that. And the concept of the movie was kind of a loosely based off of Masterpiece background, and we're going to release that movie. So before, the biggest thing is we met with a bunch of film production places. We met with the studios. Nobody wanted to really touch it, so we decided to market. This is the this movie is banned from theaters. And if you saw the movie, it wasn't the greatest movie. So right before the movie coming out and being shot, that's when Master P and I split. But the whole concept of going direct to DVD, direct to video with the soundtrack and putting that together and put the value pack is something that originated from David Grisham, came to me, and I kind of designed the strategy around doing that. And then Master P, obviously, he took it to the next level by actually getting it done. So with that, with him doing that, I've always wanted to make more movies and do music and really, get projects out. Because I think the more opportunities you have to put out more records and movies and video games, anything that you have, more revenue opportunities, more revenue streams, you're able to generate revenue for yourself and take care of yourself and your family, but also take care of artists and actors and folks that you work with. So I reached out to a gentleman named Gary Reeves, and Gary Reeves kind of introduced me to a bunch of people, and I met. Actually, on the interesting thing, the late Andre Harrell was supposed to do this movie with me,
Wow.
and he at the last minute pulled out for whatever reason. And I happened to run into a gentleman named Ken Wilson. And for those of you who don't know Ken Wilson used to be the president over at MCA and the Black Music Division. He also worked for J Records, executive vice president for them, worked directly for Clive Davis. And I kind of broke down. I had already did a poster for the movie, so I had a movie with a poster and fire in the back, and we had glass windows, and Reverend Durong was there, and I was Deacon Hot Hands. We had an old lady smoking a joint, and he was laughing just looking at the poster, and he was like, "Well, hey man, I'd love to do this movie with you, man. This thing looks hilarious." He said, "Have you shot anything?" Now I told him a little white lie. That, yeah, we started working on some stuff because I put together an actual trailer. And he saw that. He said, "Hey, I want to get in on this thing." So we worked out a deal. We put some stuff together, and then we started shooting the movie. We contacted a gentleman named W.E. Baker. His name is Bill Baker, and he is the actual original producer of the first Friday movie Ice Cube did. And I actually contacted him. We worked out a deal to do the Reverend Do Wrong Ain't Right, which was so completely awesome of him to kind of work a deal with me to do it. We shot the movie in about 9 days, and going through that production piece of it, I think the most difficult thing was we were doing it in December so we could get a deal. So for anyone who knows anything, if you don't know about the music industry or the entertainment industry, usually by December 1st, all the way to past the new year, usually the entertainment business is closed. Everyone's going on their vacations to Barbados and Fiji and anywhere else. And no one's doing production, no one's doing anything. So we were able to shoot in December for on the cheap because people who are looking to get a little extra money for their holidays or a little extra money for Christmas were willing to work for next to nothing, lower than their normal rate. And we were able to shoot that and get that done. I think a challenge for me was I've worked on productions before, but doing a full feature movie and all that it takes and to have your energy be high as the story writer and making sure that we are telling the story that I want told and making sure it's funny and making sure lines are funny. Being the actor, making sure that, I'm keeping my energy up for the acting part of it. And also as an executive producer and making sure the money is right and people are getting paid on time and all that stuff. So when you're wearing those three hats, something sometimes gives. So for me, it was surrounding myself with really smart people like Bill Baker, Donnie Wilson, David Grisha. It's those type of people who were surrounding me that kind of kept me kind of on the straight and narrow if I was veering off, or hey, your energy is quite not where it needs to be, or hey, someone has questions about, hey, we need to make sure the guys get paid, or hey, we need to pay this bill for this piece of equipment, and making sure that money's in the account and all that stuff. So it's being organized, and that was a challenge for me because I was, doing wearing so many hats during the process. It's really difficult to, and people will tell you like, oh yeah, if you're on top of things and you're organized, you can do it. But in actuality, it's kind of really difficult to be organized when you're doing so many different things. And that was a challenge for me. And I would say I overcame that challenge by I would say delegating and trusting people. The problem in the entertainment industry in general, a lot of times, if you trust the wrong people, things don't work out. Money doesn't get to the right person. Projects don't come out the way you want them to. You don't have the quality you want them to. And I just trusted the process. I believed in myself. I believed in the folks around me. I let them run the show. It wasn't the Tobin Costen show. It was really having good actors, having good production people, having a good partner, having just great people around me, and just trusting that they have my best interest at heart because no one wants to put their name on a bad project.
Right.
And that's one thing you have to remember. Now, the financial piece of it, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But when putting together a project, no one wants to be known as the producer, the director, the actor, um, or known as anyone who's part of something that's not good. So sometimes things don't turn out the way you want them to, but I will assure you, if you surround yourself with the right people, that's not going to be an option, and that's not going to be a problem.
Right, right. And as you were speaking about others who have said, "Oh, it's easy" or whatever,
Yes.
um, it, those cats fall into two categories. One, they've never really done a project that complex, or two,
Yes.
they have a secret they're not sharing with anybody. But the trust and the faith, I'm more of a faith man than a trust man, but
Yes.
it
I
has nothing to
understand
do with
that.
religion. There's a distinct difference for me. And so I agree. Everything you said is, again, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about how I'm going to parse this, because there are so many things, nuggets that you're laying out that we're in minute, who the heck knows? And so, but I want to make sure that these nuggets are encapsulated, so before somebody goes, okay, I've watched enough of this, I'm going to the next one,
Yes,
you know.
I
But
understand.
so question 4 is all the things you've done, and there are people who are watching this who will say or post or whatever, hey, how can I get in on this? Or uh, what advice, and that's the question, what advice would you give, particularly since your business acumen, your entrepreneurship starts in the mid to late 80s and continues on to today. So you have seen and experienced all different types of medium
Yes,
and
sir.
all aspects. So whether it's music, whether it's direction, whether it's small business, what advice would you give to, whether it's individual or the answer encompasses all three um, spectrum that you have touched?
Well, I will just tell you, no matter what you do, I mean, there's two things that are important in any business. I don't care what business you're in, or even if it's your personal business. And these two things that I learned this from my father. He has told me business is based on people and process. Even if it's your personal self, if you've got good people around you that can support you and love you and care about you as a person, and you're talking about, and I'm talking about your personal life now, and you've got a good process for what you do, you have set yourself a good foundation to be successful. So when you're talking about whether I was in the publishing business for a little bit, you're talking about music, you're talking about movies, you're talking about, production, anything that you're talking about doing, you're talking about beverage. If you have good people and good processes, that's overall business, you can be successful. So someone who wants to start a business, they need to make sure that they're asking the right questions. I'm a professor at Holy Names University, and some of my students want to start businesses. I always tell them, make sure you have good people and good processes. The first thing you need to do is ask questions. Find someone who will answer your questions. Most people want to talk about themselves. Even the most introverted person, if it's something they're interested in, they want to talk about it. Ask them a question. Get to LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn and say, hey, my name is Tobin Costen. I'm interested in this career, or I'm interested in this business. I would really like to talk to someone. Now, if that person is not available, let's say some people might look at this and say, hey, I'm going to go contact the CEO of this company. Well, maybe they won't be able to help you because they don't have time, but there may be somebody at a lower level, maybe an entry level person who's working for an organization that can give you information. Because at the start of any business, all you want is information. The second piece of it is you need to look at yourself and figure out what are you willing to do to get to become a success. So if you aren't willing to do whatever it takes, as long as it's legal and ethical, so let's just put that on the table. We want to be legal and ethical, but what am I going to do to generate success? and then defining what success is with specific information. Is it, I want to make $1 million a year, or I want to make $100,000 a year, whatever that number is, or whatever success looks like for you, then you work backwards of how I'm going to solve that problem. So I always tell students, look, if you want to make something work, find out what you're willing to do and find out what success looks like. If you do that, then you develop the right people around you, the right group around you, and the right processes in order for you to do it. So the focus has to be on the success, not necessarily the money, because if you're successful, the money is going to come. But you need to make sure you understand specifically what does that success look like. Now, I tell people 5 year plans are good. You can say, hey, the first year of my business, I want to make $30,000. Well, the next year, the second year, I want to make 100,000, and then maybe it's a quarter million, all the way till you work up to $500,000 a year. And then you know your ultimate goal may be, hey, I want to sell this business in 10 years and I want to make $10 million off of it. Well, it's a math problem. You need to figure out how many widgets you need to sell, or how many downloads you need to get, or how many, if you're a consultant, how many consultant jobs do I need to get in order to hit these revenue targets over the course of time. And it's all about checking the boxes and making sure you check in with yourself and see what success looks like. When I was, when Master P and I split, a lot of people didn't think I was going to have any success, or some of the people that did, they were just like, well, I don't know if we want to work with you. Well, I did Life of a Kingpin with underground rapper named King George, and sold a significant amount of records and was on Billboard charts for 8 weeks. And it's because we laid the foundation, and I knew what success looked like other artists would need to, or labels would need to sell 1 million records, right? So, well, look, at the end of the day, if I'm getting $7 or $8 a unit, I don't need to sell 1 million records to make the same amount. Now, if another guy is only getting 10 or 12% of the record, think about that. You're only getting 10 or 12% of the record, and they've advanced you $500,000. More than likely, you're going to have to sell about $650,000 just to break even. But for me, at the end of the day, if I sell 80,000 records, and I'm making $7 or $8 a unit, I'm going to make over $500,000. So I only need to sell 80,000 units to make as much money as someone who needs to sell almost 1 million records, or even particularly very minimum goal. So do not be afraid of the challenge. Do not be afraid of what it's going to take, but understand what success looks like for you. And if you focus on the success, everything else kind of falls in line to where you need to go and what you want to do.
Right, right. Now, I was going to, I actually have not necessarily a follow up question. I'm going to try and phrase it in the form of a statement so I can keep my shtick.
Okay.
But there are, as you were speaking, there are folks out there who understand everything you said, but it's the actual map from where they are to where they need to be. Now, for me, it's easy. It's just you got to hustle.
Yes.
A plan, yeah, exactly. A plan is excellent. A plan is necessary. I tell artists, for music, you need a plan, a budget, and a radio-friendly song.
Yes.
And then I go into specifics. If you really want to be, you want that hit and run, you make a dance song or a stripper song.
Yes, something that people will. Well, it's true. Something. Yeah. Here's the thing. If anybody wants to know how to make a hit record, I don't care if it's country, rock, rap, reggae, whatever. You make a song that men think is like, yeah, I really like what that person's saying, and it's a song that makes women shake their butt. I mean, that's really it. And I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that, but I'm like, if you can make it where women want to dance, and there's a lot of men out there who want to watch women dance, and there are a lot of women who want to watch women dance too. But if you have a song that makes women want to dance, and it says something that people, like a hook that people can chant, and they can say, yes, I love the way that song sounds based on the hook, You got a hit record. I don't care if it's country, rap, rock, reggae, whatever it is. That's what it is.
Exactly.
And if you start
Exactly.
thinking like that, you can get yourself a hit record, and you'll know it when you hear it. You'll know it. You'll know it because the hook is very catchy. You'll know
Exactly.
it because people will want to dance to it. But like the people who like the country folks who like to put on their country or cowgirl boots or cowboy boots, and they like to wear those short skirts and all that stuff, they will want to dance to it. And if you can find something that folks want to shake their butts to, but at the same time it's saying something that it's got a good hook, the rest of it is history.
Exactly. Well, I learned this watching the Motown documentary and Barry Gordy's "You Got to Catch 'Em in the First 10 Seconds," and that the two songs come to mind. Make them say
Yep.
and sick with this. You
Yes.
hear those two, you know the song, that intro is going to get you hooked.
Absolutely. I
And
think I'm about it too. You know, when you hear that sound,
right,
I'm about you about it, about it. And then it became everyone's like, you about it, I'm about it. This guy in Texas is about it. Everybody, and it just became a chant that everyone got excited about. That's why it was
exactly,
such a great record. I mean,
exactly,
that was the foundation of the success of No Limit Records because that record was a radio jingle for Wild Wayne and Q93 in New Orleans. And it was interesting. People liked it, but it was just a 1 minute. I think it was a minute and a half of a jingle. And I told Master P, I said, I think we should make this into a single. I think this thing could be huge. And he was like, looked at me, and I never forget. He looked at me and he was like, "Are you sure, man? Because we can't afford to miss on the gamble." And I said, "Man, I would bet my last dollar and my life that this record is going to be the biggest record in the South." And whether it was my clairvoyance or whether I got lucky, it was the song that made TRU and Master P and the whole No Limit family the biggest record company, eventually the biggest record company in the world.
oh yeah, no, and honestly, it could be all of the above,
Yes.
clairvoyance, luck, actually the song being a hit, that kind of helped too.
That doesn't hurt when
That
you get the
does
hit
not
record.
hurt. That does not hurt. So now we're
Absolutely.
into question 5.
Yes, sir.
What advice would you give to the 20-year-old you?
Uh, the buy Apple stock. That's probably something I would tell the 20-year-old me is buy Apple stock. Well, I think the other thing is too, um, it's okay to be trusting, but almost only to a point. Because my trusting nature had put me in some financial binds, and I think if I were to do it over again, and look, my life is fine. I live in a beautiful home in California. I had a great family. um, I've lived a life where I've traveled all over the world, been to all 50 states. I've done some incredible things, and we talked about that today. I've done music and movies and publishing and all kinds of different things. And heck, I even announced the Pleasanton hometown holiday parade every year, and I've done it for 12 years. So I will tell you, I've done a little bit of everything. And but when you trust people so much, you put yourself in the bind financially, and sometimes you're in a hole that you're trying to climb out of. And I'll tell you, when you try to climb out of a hole financially because you trust in someone else, it can be a bitter pill to swallow, and it could be tough. Now, if you keep grinding and working, and you make some things happen, you're in a good place and financially you're okay. But I would tell the 20-year-old me it's okay to be trusting, but just be trusting to a point, and don't lose yourself in the trusting of somebody else. And that's what I would tell the 20-year-old me. And I think young people should be focused on there's nothing you can't accomplish. There's nothing you can't accomplish if you're willing to work for it. And I know it might be hard, You might not be on the level playing field of other people, but you cannot work the next person in order to get to where you want to go. And I've been, for me, it's been fabulous. It's like I've had hard, there's been hard days and hard times and all that stuff because that's life. But overall, my life has been fabulous. I'm trying to stay on this planet as long as possible and be healthy and strong. And so, telling the 20-year-old self would be it's okay to be trusting just to a point, and go get that Apple stock, man. That's where it's at. Or Tesla, either one. But Apple, the 20-year-old me, Tesla wasn't around when I was that young, but the 20-year-old me, get that Apple stock, who knows what I'd be doing
Exactly.
right
Oh man,
now.
you wanted to emphasize so much, you froze.
I was like, oh, wait. Well, the other thing is too, Danny, like when I was in the music business, I was asking for things that just didn't happen. So I was talking to folks about, medical, dental, and vision. So I'd meet with MCA or Universal or Sony, and I talked to them about medical, dental, and vision for me and whoever I was working with. I was talking about if you want to advance me money, pay me half my advance in stock. So people are looking at me like this Tobin Costen guy's got to be crazy. He's talking about getting his half of his advance in stock. Well, because I knew if I got Sony stock, think about this. I do a deal with Sony, and they're talking about, hey, every album we want to advance you 250,000. Well, heck, there was a time that I had 22 albums out at the same time. So you go 22 times $125,000 in stock, and we continue to do that. We're talking about having hundreds of millions of dollars in Sony stock, and that's when you start thinking along those lines and getting a piece of the rock and getting stock, and as that stock starts to grow and even gaining more stock, then you have an ownership of an organization. So it goes from millions of dollars to hundreds of millions of dollars. Who knows? Maybe even getting to that billion with the B. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
that and I think it kind of threw people off because they were like, look, this guy's not trying to come here for a minute. He's trying to stay here and put the anchor down and be here. And that's just, one of the things that for me, I always thought outside the box. I was trying to get other record companies, other black owned record companies to kind of partner with me, and
Right.
let's see how we can develop our own major label. Because we had the hottest records, so I went to several of the other black-owned record companies and said, man, we have the hottest records. Instead of me paying for someone to promote and you paying for, let's just get one group of individuals to promote for us, and we each get a piece of each other's album. So if it's my album, I get 80% of the album, and you guys get 20. And then if it's your album, you get 80%, and I get a piece of the 20, and then we all just keep this thing going. But
Right.
sometimes it's hard when people aren't on the same page and they don't think about what we could do and how we can grow and how we can develop into something special.
Anyway, man, I could talk for hours with you about this.
I'm the
I,
same way, man.
yeah,
You get me going. I could talk about all kinds of things,
uh,
So, but
uh,
I appreciate you. I appreciate your platform. I love your show and everything that you do. It's just really fun, and you've had some really incredible guests on here. So to be asked to be on the show, it's like an absolute honor. So I thank you for that, man. I really do.
oh man, hold on. I'm trying to compress my head. It's getting so big now because I have a legend in three different arenas telling me that.
Oh man,
Oh man. Okay.
you know what? It's so funny when we talk. It's like sometimes I forget all the things that I've done. So someone like you, or one of my friends reminds me. And I had a buddy of mine say, "Man, you were like the first guy to do a mixtape on the West Coast." And I was like, yeah, I guess I was. But it's just I just happen to be sometimes in the right place at the right time, or maybe the wrong place at the right time, whatever you want to call it. And I just tried to make the most of my experience. And I just figured if I rolled my sleeves up, had some faith to your point, and just did whatever it was to take to be successful, as long as we weren't going to go to jail for it. And probably there were probably some things I did that maybe I could have went to jail for it and didn't know it. So I just was just focused on how do I solve a problem? How do I build good relationships? And how do I, be the best me that I could be? And then you having the knowledge and understanding that if you're going to make it, you need to do something special so you can take care of your family. You do those things, everything worked itself out for me, and I'm very, very blessed. And I'm blessed for your friendship, and you're the man, man. I love you, man. I appreciate you so much.
I thank you, dude. I thank you. So before I give my little five easy questions piece, repeat again what you have that's out there currently,
Hmm.
so that I will put that underneath in the post production. And
Okay.
you speak so eloquently, but I want to make sure even those who are hard of hearing can
Okay.
hear what you're saying
Well,
with your projects.
absolutely. So right now I've got Psycho Cider out, which is a hard apple cider, variety of flavors. So XAIKO sippsycho.com is the website. And you can follow us at Psycho Beverages on Instagram and Facebook. Right now, the Reverend Drew Wrong Ain't Right is out. It is on Amazon Prime. If you want to care to check that out, that was a really successful movie for Amazon Prime and myself, so I'm excited about that. I also have a network on YouTube called the Costa and Hammer Network, CHN.
Your mic came out, I think.
We
Oh,
have, I'm back. I'm back.
okay.
We
Because I
have,
see that. No, I
uh,
still see that, dude. You're still frozen. It's
I'm frozen.
you're frozen, man. You look like you're taking a mugshot. Ah, there you go.
Oh, sorry about that, buddy. So
No,
let's
no,
do that
no, no
again.
worries, dude.
Yep. So I've got Psycho beverages, Sip Psycho cider. Make sure you check that out. We've got a variety of flavors all over Northern California. We also got the Costin and Hammer Network, which is kind of something I partnered up with a former student of mine, where we're doing comedy and sports and mental health and all of these things on the Costin and Hammer Network, or the CHN. So those are really the big projects that I'm focused on. And then we're trying to raise money right now. We're trying to raise money for Special Olympics. So you'll be seeing, if anyone who follows me, they can see some of the things that I'm trying to do with Special Olympics, trying to give back to the community. We did something for Make a Wish Foundation, which was established. We granted a wish. And anyone can find me on my website. It's literally TobinCosten.com. TobinCosten.com. If you want to just send me a message, email me. It's fine. Anything I can do to support people. I'm always trying to do something to give back to the community and help other people. It's important.
Excellent, man. Excellent. This has been an honor, a privilege, and part one of our conversation, because you dropped so
Yes,
much
sir.
knowledge that it can't be contained, even in my little shtick of five easy. But I got to end it at some point
Yes.
because Zoom will start charging me. And
All right. We don't want that. Let's get out
no,
of here.
no, 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 not at all. So thank you, Tobin, for your time and your effort. This has been Danny Easy D Dorman. Peace.
Peace.